Good morning to my office. I don't bring people to my office very often. So thank you for coming to my talk. So let's see here. Managed to have focus in the right place. Okay. So back in February, on February 23rd, I tweeted, I know it's crazy, but I really want to make a browser. The truth of the matter is that even though this tweet was from 2020, this has sort of been a thing I've had for a long time, probably way before 2005, which is when I started at Opera, working in the Opera browser. I'll get into a little bit about why, but mostly it's a lot of really interesting technology. And so if you basically whatever you're interested in, there is something for you in a browser. But I have no money, at least not for making a browser, because making a browser is really, really expensive. If you start looking into it, Google has at least 1,000 engineers working on Chrome. Firefox had about 1,000 engineers working on Firefox until the downsizing this year, and so I'm one person. So how can one person manage to make a browser, and how can you actually manage to pay 1,000 engineers for a product that you're going to give away for free? So yeah, this is weird. And what does that money go for? You know, you need people to actually develop the first version of the browser. It has to actually have some kind of functionality before you can get any users. And then you need maintenance over time and developing new features. And that's also people, and it's also more money. And of course, any kind of technology or hosting or anything is also going to cost money. So you need a lot of money. And I have no money for this. And so how do browsers make money anyway? Because how could you pay 1,000 engineers for something you give away for free? And the fact of the matter is that Google pays for browsers. That's been true for a long time. Like people think like, oh, that's probably like a new thing. No, Google's been paying for browsers for as long as I can remember. Before I started at Opera, so it was way in the early 2000s. Google has been paying for browsers. And then you think like, why would Google care about these things? But the web is the platform for Google's entire business model. If the web does not survive, then Google really doesn't have a business model. So having a web and directing searches towards Google, it has value for Google. But so no matter what you might think of Google, Google is keeping the web alive and is also paying for your browser. So how much do they pay, right? Because if you're going to calculate in how you're going to make this work, if you're lucky, around $1 per user per year. Which then you think that's not a lot. Like if you think about your Netflix and all of those things, $1 per user per year is not a lot. But the thing is that browsers have a lot of users, a lot more than most other products. If you have 1 million users for your browser, that will make you totally insignificant in the browser market share. You're like 0.01 or something percent of the browser market share. Completely insignificant actor. But if you get $1 per user per year, that's $1 million. And now suddenly you can actually pay a couple of engineers or two, or maybe seven, depending. So, okay, so that's how they make their money. But I don't have a deal with Google. So I have no money right now. I also have no users. And the fact is, Google is really only interested in you once you actually have users. And so I have no users for my currently non-existent browser. Well, okay, partially existent browser. So there's no bootstrapping process. There's no way to get from 0 to 1 million users. And yeah, so that's going to be interesting. So basically, I have zero budget. I have one dev, part-time. That's me. So the solution here is going to be to try to leverage open source to make a browser. Now, the truth of the matter is open source is used for everything. Like anything that you look at in your house that has any kind of vaguely looking interactive functionality will be chock full of open source things. And this is also true for browsers. Even Chrome is chock full of open source. Well, most of it is open source, but it also incorporates lots of open source projects. So in here somewhere is where we're going to plan to make a browser, which is really more a stunt than a real plan. But yeah, so this is where we are. The upside is it's 2020. So sorry about the street art. My pony lesson got canceled, is what it says on the drawing. And so we suddenly ended up in 2020. And there's the upside is I have some free time. Another upside is it's 2020. It's not 2005. And a lot of things that didn't exist as open source projects, or not at least in any kind of professional capacity in 2005, actually exists in 2020, and there are certain things that we don't have to make from scratch. So the talk is trying to build an open source browser in 2020. So my name is Patricia Aas. I'm a trainer and a consultant. Not so much trainer right now in 2020 because I do in-person trainings on site, mostly with clients in Germany, which all of these things put together means I'm not doing it right now. But I do consulting and contracting, so yeah, hire me. I call myself a C++ programmer, which is more of a lifestyle than a label. I've been specializing in application security for the last few years. I work for a company I co-founded called TurtleSec, and previously I worked a bunch of places. We'll get back to that. I have a master's in computer science, and my pronouns are she, her. So back to where I used to work, because my first real job was working on the Opera browser back in 2005. I got it right out of university. It was like my dream job. I turned down another job on the day I signed with Opera that was offering me like multiple of tens of thousands more dollars more, because this was my dream job. I wanted to work on my browser, and that was the thing. Opera was my browser. That was the one I used. Then I was a Java consultant for a couple of years, where I actually made things that ran on the web. But then I went to Cisco, and at Cisco I worked on embedded telepresence systems, and of course you think, okay, that has nothing to do with it, but actually, as it turns out, after like 2 years after I left Cisco, I could actually say I worked on browser technology at Cisco as well, which they are shipping now. So which is very awesome, which means I can talk about it again. But then I went to Vivaldi because I really, really want to make a browser, right? So I worked on browsers again. And now at my own company, for some reason, I'm doing it again because I have a thing for browsers, I guess. Yeah, it's becoming quite clear. I have a thing for browsers. But why do I love browsers so much? Of course, it is really technically challenging. Like there's everything you would want to learn about is inside of a browser. It's practically an operating system. If you're interested in compilers, there's compiler technology. If you're interested in networking, there's network technology. If you're interested in graphical design, there's graphical design in there. There's everything you would want to be interested in is inside of a browser. And it's also a product that I use myself a lot. I'm using it right now. And so that is something that's really special, to be able to add features to a product that you use yourself is a privilege that you don't often get when you make software. You have lots of users. I love lots of users. And I also love the fact that the users can yell at me on the internet, which people think is weird, but I think it feels like I have a connection, like these people are my people, and we have a connection. And also I believe in the web. I believe that the web is one of the most crazy ideas that we actually managed to do in real life. If anybody had pitched the concept of the web to anybody sitting in a board meeting, they go like, no, we need to lock this stuff down. It's like an anarchy idea that we somehow managed to push through because nobody was looking. I love it. We should do it more. But let's look at browsers, right? So outside of Firefox, this is like the general landscape of browsers in 2020, unfortunately. So way back back in the day, KDE made an engine called KHTML and also a JavaScript engine that they used inside of Conqueror. A little bit of time goes by, and Apple decides they want to make a browser too, which will be known as Safari, and which is basically a fork of this code base because they liked it so much. So they made this wrapper around this WebKit idea and called it Chromium, and life went on. A little bit later on, Google decided they wanted to make a browser too, and so they used the same project that Apple was maintaining to make the Chrome browser. But a little time goes on and they feel like we're doing all the work and it's a big hassle to try to maintain all of the Apple specific stuff, and so they make a new project, which is in the beginning just a fork of WebKit Chromium, which they call Blink Chromium. And that was the state for a while. Not very long after that, Opera decided to ditch their own engine, which was very unfortunate for the web. And the reason for that is that we never had many engines. Opera was one of the few. Unfortunately, Opera's engine was also proprietary, which meant that when Opera ditched it, it was gone. A little bit after that, other browsers like Vivaldi, Brave also used Chromium Blink to make their browsers. And more recently, Edge also ditched their own proprietary engine and went over to Chromium Blink, which means that today most of the browsers that exist are based on Chromium Blink or Chromium WebKit, which also means that I am making a browser, but you should use Firefox. So this is sort of the ecosystem where we're going to try to make a browser, mostly because it is a code base that is highly maintained by big companies like Google and Microsoft, and that will make it possible maybe to make something professional. But this is not really like my first time for going it alone. Back in 2018, I made a browser a bit by accident. So this is a slide from my presentation actually at TechTown 2 years ago. So it's this isolating GPU access in its own process. So if you want to watch it, you can do it. It's on YouTube. It was 2 years ago in TechTown 2018 when we were still doing things live and in person. So this is a slide from that one where I actually had a demo of how composition in Chromium worked, where I said I might have made a browser. I might have decided to have a demo last night. So, so if you want to see that, it's on YouTube, so feel free. But time went on and I got busy. I had to make money, so I did other things. But it was kind of nagging in the back of my mind. And so you saw that from the tweet in February. It's like, I really, really want to make a browser for real. So I was doing this in 2020, January, February, March. I was doing on-prem international trainings. I was going, traveling to several other countries, coming to companies, doing on-prem international trainings. Things were going great. Business was awesome. Then everything got canceled. So March 2020, everything got canceled. All of the trainings that I had booked got canceled. Any kind of speaking engagements I had were canceled. Everything was canceled. So suddenly I was sitting there and I had I had some time, right? So So I was sitting around going like, I really want to program and I really want to make a browser. And so I decided to give it a go. So I took the browser code base that I had made 2 years ago, which was very, very tiny. And I decided to make a browser called TurtleBrowsercom, which is like a fantastic website, by the way. You should definitely go visit it. I'll show you in a sec. Let's see here. This is TurtleBrowser.com. Just so you know how fabulous it is. Okay, anyway. So there we were, right? I bought the domain, and so we're almost finished, right? We can ship it now. So the theory goes, this is like knowledge, fundamental knowledge of like, senior principal engineers, that the last 10% of functionality takes 90% of the time. So the logic here goes, if the last 10% of the functionality takes 90% of the time, inversely, that means that the first 90% of functionality takes 10% of the time, right? Okay, so given this fantastic logic, if we can just skim the surface and make like the basics within each category of functionality that we need, we need to focus on actually bringing up each pillar in the browser that a browser needs today. We don't have time to go like in depth on anything, and we definitely don't have time to make lots of custom things, and because one person, zero budget, no time, right? So the first thing is we need some kind of GUI framework. Now, like back in the day at Opera, we had a homemade cross-platform GUI framework that we used. If you go and look at Chromium, Chromium also has a built-in GUI framework, and it is used for a lot of the browsers, except for example, Vivaldi, that uses actual browser tech to make the UI, which is awesome. It's in React, so that's really cool. But anyway, so we need a GUI framework. We also need some kind of porting layer, because we don't have time to maintain like massively all of these different platforms, and you can't really ship a browser today if you don't at least support Linux, Mac, and Windows, in my opinion. So we're going to go for the first round. We're going to make a desktop browser. And so we need a GUI framework. We need a porting layer. Now, the fact of the matter is that I have a lot of experience using Qt, so we're going to go for Qt. There are several reasons for that. First of all, Qt has an excellent porting layer. And it also has a lot of functionality that we're going to be trying to leverage in different ways to get away with this concept of making a browser. One of the things that it does have is... Somebody's not muted. Who is that? Okay. We're assuming somebody got muted. Okay, so yeah, so the Qt is mostly for the is C++, but it also has a GUI definition language called QML, and QML is excellent for creating UIs, but also because it makes UIs that are easy to change. So we're going to use the C++ for business logic, but we're going to use QML for UI. And so for those of you who are not familiar with QML, when people ask me what does QML look like, I say it's like if JSON, JavaScript, and CSS had a baby. That's what it looks like. So I'll show you. Okay, so this is a boiled down version of webpage.qml. So this will define a web page component that we can use in other QML files. So this is the code. So what you see here is that you have like import statements at the top. On the fourth line there, you'll see Qt Web Engine, and that is because Qt actually comes with a component which embeds Chromium Blink, which is one of the one of the reasons why we're doing this. But you also have things like layout and controls and things like that, so you can to define your UI. You can also import JavaScript files, which might be nice, but you can also write JavaScript inside of QML files. So here we have a custom component that I made. So let's see. So if you look here, this is Chrome. We'll do it like this. So here you have the typical layout of a browser. So you have some kind of address bar with back, forward, reload, and some like an address field, and then you have like the actual web page down here. So this is what this is supposed to define, right? So you have the address bar here, and it has like an on reload, on back, on forward, go to address, and it's referencing this web view thing, which is down here. Now this is not a custom component. This is this comes with Qt, and we can it will embed Chromium Blink. We'll get a lot back to that later, but this is basically what QML looks like. One of the reasons why I like it is very easy to change. If you want a different kind of layout, you just change the layout here, and then suddenly everything is not pretty anymore. But anyway, but the nice thing about a browser is that the general concept of how it looks like is pretty well known. Yeah, so the advantage of QML is it's easy to change the UI. And this is something that is important that I saw a lot at Opera, as having a hard-coded UI makes it hard to change, and you really want to change it a lot over time. So for desktop, for the web view, we want Chromium Blink because that's how things are done these days. And so we're going to be using Qt Web Engine. However, this is going to get a little bit complicated, and so we'll get back to that later on. But for other things that we're going to need, we need some way to build this browser. We're going for cross-platform right away. So we want Windows, Mac, and Linux off the bat. And back in the day, we had at Opera, we had custom build systems for each platform, and they were maintained by a person on each platform, and it was really annoying. But this is 2020, and Cmake is very mature, especially on desktop. And so we're going to use Cmake for all of our building needs. And for those who are not familiar with Cmake, let's see here. Cmake basically looks a bit like this. So you define things. It's a high level. It's not really actually a build system. It generates build files for the different platforms, right? Okay. So, but we need dependency management as well. This is something that we've been really bad at in C++ for a long time. Unfortunately, but right now we're kind of spoiled. Like, there are several options for doing your dependency management today. And a lot of people probably would look at VC package, which might be the easiest option for dependency management, but we will not. We will go for Conan. And there are a couple of reasons why we're going to go for Conan. One, because Conan is made to be very configurable, and we're definitely going to be needing to configure stuff even more as we go along. But most of all, because Conan has ConanQt. And this is going to be our massive, big, mega dependency is going to be Qt, and Qt is going to be transitively basically pulling in all of our dependencies, including Chromium. And ConanQt has a maintainer called Eric Lemancier. I hope my French is not great. And he's been awesome. So I've basically been his QA for this. And he takes bug reports on Twitter DM, which is like a super feature for open source. And so the great thing is you can configure which Qt module you want in, because the thing is that the default version of ConanQt is a very minimal Qt, but we are going for the opposite of minimal. So if you go here, you can define up which modules that you want in. So for example, in our case, we want Qt Web Engine in. And this is how you you select it. Currently, I have a patch on it, so I'm using my own, but I'm removing it tomorrow because there was a bug in Conan, which also apparently I'm testing. Let's see. But if we go back here, so yeah, so you can configure ConanQ to have the mother that you want, but that also means that one of the things that Conan will do for you, it's a little bit like if you're used to Maven or something from other languages. So you will pull down all of these packages that you need. You will just say what you require, which is great. And for Conan, a lot of these projects are pre-built, so you just pull down the binaries and you're finished. Unfortunately, I'm doing a very custom version of ConanQ where I'm turning on, for example, Qt Web Engine, which means that there's no pre-built package for me. So I have to build it locally. And that takes a long time. Now, Google people try to tell you that it doesn't take a long time. They're lying. So it takes a really long time. It's probably the most it's probably in at least the top 10 of the longest compile times in the world. It is a massive thing. On my machine, my laptop, which is a developer machine, has like 32 gigs, and it's pretty okay. It's you know it's not brand new, but it's not old. It will take me 3 to 4 hours to build Chromium, which is not something that you can have in your continuous integration pipeline. So you need some way to build it and put the binary somewhere. Now, if you have a budget, you'd probably use Artifactory by JFrog to upload all of your artifacts to, but I have no budget. So what we're going to do is we're going to hack together something. So we need a CI/CD pipeline. Now the thing is that we have the whole project is well, let's see. The whole project is on GitHub, right? So this is Turtle Browser's documentation is spotty at best. But GitHub has GitHub Actions. So this is what we're going to be using for our CI/CD pipeline. It has, like, for example, here, a release. And if we go and we look at it, we can go and look at Ubuntu latest, and it's, it's a minute, 2 minutes, blah, blah, blah. And the secret for all of this is these two things here. First, there is a built-in GitHub action. And I'm going to use this built-up cache action here for caching.conan. And this is what I did from the beginning. The problem is it's kind of buggy and very often will fail. The problem is when it fails, suddenly a build takes 6 hours. And that is one of the features, though, of GitHub Actions is every step of a GitHub action can take up to 6 hours. It is fantastic. It's like it's like people come to me, oh, why don't you use GitLab? It's like an hour. I can't do anything in an hour. I can build all of Chromium on Mac. And they have like fantastic Mac machines. Anyway, okay, so every single step here could take up to 6 hours, but unfortunately we don't want to wait for 6 hours. So the first one is this GitHub cache action, which will basically zip up your .conan thing and upload it somewhere in the GitHub server somewhere. Unfortunately, since it fails, we have a problem. So let's see. Going back here. There we go. Yeah, so GitHub Actions is where we're going to be at. Currently, there's no way I can switch to anything else because everything else takes a long time. And I have Mac build servers at GitHub Actions. So basically, this is my vendor lock-in right now. So to fix this problem, I made a GitHub action. I'd never made a GitHub action in my life, but I made a GitHub action which is called ConanCash. And the basic thing is it's total hack, so don't tell GitHub. But basically, I take everything in like .conan and also short. Wait, let's not get into that. If you want to, you can read the documentation. I stuff everything into Git, and then I push it to GitHub. So I actually have, if you imagine in any kind of other programming language, it's sort of like if I make a repo of node modules and then I push it to GitHub, which is awesome. But unfortunately, of course, there's like some really big things in there. And unfortunately, GitHub has like some limits. I don't remember exactly what the limit is, but I think well, there's a limit to how big the files can be. So when you come to the actual shared library for Chromium, it's too big to push to GitHub. But GitHub has something called GitHub LFS, which is large file storage. So if you use GitHub LFS, you can push everything to GitHub. It's awesome. Anyway, yeah, so don't tell GitHub I did this. Okay, so moving on from our CI/CD pipeline, we go to testing. Which unfortunately I haven't gotten really far with, so we're going to get through that really fast because we need some way to test QML. There is a framework for testing QML in Qt, and so that's my plan. We also need some way to test C++. There's some Qt test framework. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll use Google Test or something else. I'm not sure yet, but basically it's really high up on the list. I need tests. Maybe some kind of GUI driver somewhere in the future. But yeah, licensing, because became really fast something I really needed to look at. Because if you're going to be using lots of open source projects, there's a lot of compliance things that are a part of using open source. And lots of people are not aware of this, which means that a lot of people are not in compliance, which is unfortunate because people think, oh, open sourcing means I can use it. But open source is really actually highly tied up to legal concepts around copyright law. And if you're not actually in compliance, people can sue you, which sucks, especially because I have no money. So the good thing is Chromium is fairly nice to deal with, and the other part I have to deal with is Qt. Yeah, so Chromium is fairly nice, nice in quotation marks. Google is very paranoid, so they are very particular about what kind of projects they pull in and what kind of licenses they have, which sometimes is good and sometimes is really annoying. But Qt, on the other hand, really wants to push you to have a commercial license. But going back to the point is I have no money. So this, this is not going to work. I can't have a commercial Qt license. And so basically I have to try to find a way to do this well. So let's see here. So drum roll. This is my browser. So let's see. I have my own little like self-view, so I'm just going to move it down here. Okay, so this is Turtle Browser. It's not very pretty. We'll get back to the not very pretty part. But one of the first features I made was having something to show licenses. And the problem is I use all sorts of different projects. So you have like here for OpenSSL, for example, then you can look at the license file. And these are actually all of my top level dependencies. Unfortunately, Qt is really big. And so here, one of the good things is all of this is pulled out by Conan, which is, yeah, remember we have no money. So the idea is I'm using Conan to pull out all of the licenses. So if we have a look back at the Conan file, we scroll down a little bit, down here, I'm saying go get all of the license files that you can find, and then put them in a folder. So they will end up in here, different licenses for different platforms, because of course you have different dependencies depending on your platform. It will just stuff everything in here. And then I have like a QRC file, which is a way of embedding lots of assets into your binary. So let's see. So we go here. So I make a QRC file. Then I made the GUI to display it, which basically goes through and displays everything in this folder. But the thing is, you have to kind of monitor it all the time. So I also made a little bit of a UI to search. So if you want to see like, okay, what kind of licenses do I have that are BSD licensed, or let's see, like Node, or let's see, like left, see if I have left pad in here. And the fun thing is here that you might, like, if you make JavaScript modules, you might actually have like code that you wrote inside of Chromium, because inside of the DevTools front end, they do have a bunch of node modules. So, you know, if your name is Jordan Harband, you have code inside of Chrome. So congratulations. Anyway, so moving on, so you kind of have to monitor it just to make sure that you're in compliance with all of your licensing. I'm not totally finished with this bit, but it's getting somewhere. So what do we need for like a minimal viable product, or at least like minimal viable in the way that I will be able to use it for browsing the internet? So we need a web view, right? So we have a web view here. We are loading Google. So if we go like hello, you know, you can load the internet. So that's good. And we need tabs. Okay, so we have some tabs. We can make new tabs with Control T. Then we can close tabs, so make more tabs. You can see that they actually resize. And then you can close your tabs with Control W, like a regular browser. So that's good. So we also have a couple of shortcuts. We probably need more shortcuts. We have a window. Now, one of the things that you might never have thought about browsers is that they are kind of weird. If you look at the tab bar, it's way at the top on the same line as your close and minimize and maximize buttons. This is a style that has been normal in browsers for as well since Chrome came out, which was when this design came out. And now today, everyone has this design. Like if you go look here, this is Vivaldi. It has here, you have some minimized tabs, and then over here you have your window control buttons. This is sort of to maximize the view of having a browser. So this is kind of important. And when we came to Qt 5.15, there was better support for creating this. So now we have the same thing. We have the tabs up here with the window control buttons over here. So that's good. Let's see. Okay, back here. It's a little bit meta to show you the browser while you're showing browsers, and yeah. Anyway, okay. So we have the window. We need the build and tests and things, and some of these things are now like done-ish. We have the CI/CD pipeline, but it doesn't actually run any tests for the simple reason I have no tests. Hopefully that will change very soon now. We need a way to update the web view. Now, currently the web view is given to us by Qt, which is given to us by Conan. So our way to update the web view is update Qt. This is not going to work in the long run, but this is the current situation. We need packaging. We'll look a little bit at that in a little bit. And then we need to be in compliance with licensing. And this is really important from the beginning because, again, like I said, that these are your legal obligations as an open source user. Okay, so packaging, there's a little known cousin of Cmake, which is Cpack. Now, this is going to be like our go-to solution for this, and hopefully we can get it to work really well. A combination between Cpack and Qt will hopefully make it possible for us to make proper installable packages on all of our desktop platforms, including maybe having an installer for Windows and Mac. Cpack has a lot of support, and in addition, Qt has a lot of support for doing this. So let's see here. So if we go back, where did my mouse go? Oh, here we go. So if we go back here, there is for Windows here, Qt has this Win Deploy Qt, which tries to pull everything into one location of all the dependencies you need, and a Mac Deploy Qt. So this will help us to make like the bare bones collection of things that we will need for our package. And in addition to that, we have the beginnings of some CPAC stuff that definitely needs some more work. But if we go, yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, we need a website. You saw exactly how far I've gotten on the website. Basically, the plan is it's going to be GitHub pages because who has time for this? Nobody. And some kind of Jekyll theme, and then just basically a big green button saying download my browser. But to go download the browser, you actually have to put your releases somewhere. So how are you going to do that? You're going to have a server for that? No. Who has money for that? So what we're going to do is we're going to try to use GitHub releases. This is basically me going all in on everything free at GitHub. So you can build stuff in your GitHub action and then upload the artifacts. And then I'm going to hook that up to my green button, and then you can download them from GitHub. But then you have like things that you need to make for an actual web page. And there's lots of things that need to be done and that I haven't done. You need some kind of UI for certificates. So you need to be able to show if something is secure or insecure, and maybe for people to look at those certificates. You might want to give an indication that you're actually loading a web page. And then you have like things on the web page, like you want to maybe right click and get a menu, maybe middle click to open in a background tab, which is probably like the first feature I'm going to make from this. Tab cycling, I'm absolutely useless without proper tab cycling, and that means most browsers are absolutely horrible to use. Autocomplete, I'm like, it used to be super important, but currently, like, you type something in the URL field, press enter, and hope Google will find it for you. So I'm not sure how important it is anymore, but maybe. Find in page is super important to me. Like, I use it all the time, so I definitely need find in page to work. Then you have like things like notifications of like somebody talk to you on Slack or something. So that's probably important. And then you have like little tiny dialogues like to ask you, am I allowed to turn on the camera and things like that. So those things are going to be important. So what do we need for like our alpha release? We need a way to actually update the web view to an actual release, and we'll get back to that in a little bit. We need language support. And now the cool thing about that is like you need localization of all of your UI strings and stuff to be able to have it work many places. And this is one of the things that I did early because you really want to have the system in place before you make a lot of UI. And this is also something that that Qt can help us with. So I have these wonderful horrible looking currently translation files which are generated by in Cmake using Qt. So when I build, these things can be built, and I actually have them here. So if you go and you go to get my actions, there's one that's called update languages. So once a week, I have this scheduled action that will go and actually create these language files. So they're relatively up to date. Currently, there's no translations whatsoever, but that is something that we should need to do. So again, this is like skimming the surface. I'm just like making sure that this thing is possible and then moving on to the next thing. Design and styling, we'll get back to that in a little bit. Accessibility, there's a lot of accessibility concerns already addressed if you're using Qt widgets. And so what we need to do is like try it with a screen reader and all of these things, and try zooming and contrast and all of these things and try to make that work. But currently I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping I haven't messed it up yet. Custom shortcuts, because nobody will like you if they can't customize the shortcuts. They're going to drive them nuts. Sessions, because seriously, why would a browser give you a dialog when you close it saying, do you want to close all of these tabs? Like, no. No, I don't want to close all these tabs. I want to close my browser. And when I open my browser, all of my tabs should be there. I don't understand. This is absolutely unacceptable. So okay, and DevTools. The good thing is there's DevTools support inside of Qt for the DevTools window, so that should be hopefully easy to do. And then we need some way to manage downloads. But yeah, but styling, because come on, seriously, this browser is but ugly. Like there's like so many ugly things about this browser, but again, it's like it has tabs, so you know I should be happy, but it's really ugly. If you look at Chrome, for example, it has like these nice little curvy things, and it has like these nice hover effects, and all of these like pretty little round thingies everywhere. And Turtle Browser looks like I made it, which is true. So, but the good thing is, let's see, that Qt does have some support for styling. Currently, I'm using like the default style, which is not very pretty, but it has something called the Qt Imagine style. And the Qt Imagine style is fantastic for styling purposes. So this is the plan that I have. So if you go and you look at Qt, it has different types of styles that you can point it to in different ways. And you can also tweak these styles in different ways. So if we go here, there's a configuration file called Qt Quick Controls. If I just zoom it a little bit, and you can set all sorts of things. Like here, for example, here I have this font which I want to be monospace. Then I have lots of different colors for different things. So you can set, and then at the top also you can set which style is your style and which is your default, your fallback style. And currently I'm using default, but there are other styles, which are these. But, oh, no, there we go. Here, you have how they can look differently. So these different styles. So here's the Imagine style. And the thing is with Imagine style is it has an already existing style. But the thing is with Imagine style is that you can, it's a browser, so we can use it. It has lots of assets. So it has lots of pictures for all sorts of things. So you can make pictures to style all your different widgets in different ways. So this is the plan that I will make bare bones kind of Imagine style, and then someone who actually has a sense of style can come and make it pretty at some point. Okay. But we have to get to the hard parts because these are kind of how to make a desktop application. But the hard parts here is updating Chromium. And this is going to be the hard part, and it's going to be a continuous task. And the problem is that Qt designed it how Qt does things, right? So this was how Chromium was released in 2019. And when I put little crosses here, it basically means we don't care about those releases, but there were a bunch of releases in 2019. So if you imagine the year starting here on the middle left, then Chromium 77 was released in early summer, and Chromium 80 was released close to Christmas last year. So close to Christmas last year was Chromium 80. The thing is that the release schedule for Qt, right? So we're starting 2020 now. Qt picked Chromium 77 for Qt 5.14, which was released right before Christmas. So even when Qt selected Chromium 77, it was almost 6 months old. By the time Qt released Qt 5.15, Chromium 77 was almost a year old. And this is a problem. We are, if you are using the Qt for Qt Web Engine, you're sitting with the Chromium engine, which is close to a year old. So yeah, if you're going to make a Chromium browser, like for reals, then you need to follow the Chromium release schedule for the Chromium for your Chromium engine, not the Qt release cycle. Because we're not going to be playing browser. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it for real. But that means that you kind of have to ignore the actual Chromium version that you get with Qt, but so that means you have to do some of the adaptations, some of the patching, all of that yourself, and then hook it up to the widget and do your own QA, which all of this is going to take a lot of time to be able to follow the actual schedule. So this is what the actual schedule looks like for 2020. So here we started off in January with 81, 82 was skipped, and currently like the most recent is 86. And over here someplace you have Vivaldi and Chrome. Now, of course, Turtle Browser is currently sitting on Chrome 80, which is Chromium 80, which was from around Christmas last year. And it's going to get really, really old very soon because it might be that Qt Web Engine does not actually get released with Qt 6, which means it might not get released until spring next year, which will make it terribly old, like a year and a half old. Now, this is for security reasons, is you need all of your security patches. And until now, Qt is saying like they're doing some of that. But they're also saying that maybe they're only going to be doing that for paying customers. And again, we got no money, we got no Qt license. We're not going to be getting any of these patches in that case. So that's going to be an issue. Okay. Also, with regards to security, you have sandboxing issues. Sandboxing on processes is platform specific. And that means that there's a lot of code for the different platforms for doing sandboxing. And Qt has disabled the sandbox on Windows at least, and there are lots of other tweaks, as well as that they changed the process architecture. So a lot of thought and time has to be spent on figuring out what is actually there and to make sure that things are up to spec for an actual browser. And then you come to proprietary media, which is something that nobody actually thinks about. But the thing is, there's a lot of patents on codecs for video and for audio, and these things cost money. And we got no money. So the good thing is, of course, that there's a lot of free codecs in FFmpeg, and FFmpeg is built into Chromium because Chromium has everything, like all of the open sources inside of Chromium. So a lot of the free open source codecs have software implementations inside of FFmpeg, and so those are available to you, which does mean that we do have some support for decoded media, right? Which is good because YouTube is pretty good at using free codecs these days. So a lot of things will work, but a lot of things won't work. And in addition to this, you have DRM, which we're not even going to get into. But so the hope is that we're going to be able to use Qt Multimedia to make some kind of backend to support proprietary codecs. So that's codecs that have licensing involved. And the reasons for that is that you probably do have a license with your machine. So if you have Windows, Windows has a codec for many of these things that we need. And the same thing for Mac OS. And on Linux, you can get proprietary plugins for FFmpeg. So we might be able to make like a plugin that on Linux maybe uses GStreamer with another FFmpeg that has like these proprietary codecs. But this is also going to be a project that needs to be done. And without it, probably GIFs on Twitter won't work. And then people will be sad. Because GIFs are not GIFs. GIFs are little videos. Yeah. Okay. But moving on to our beta release. The problem is when we get to our beta release, we have to start worrying about stuff. Because up until now, the browser is basically just an application running on your machine, and I don't have to worry about taking care of you because it's your problem. It's running on your machine. But when we come to to the beta release, we start introducing features that require me to have a server and actually talking to your browser and these things, and I might actually know things about you, and then suddenly we're in like GDPR territory. So for the beta, we probably want crash reporting. Like if the browser crashes on your machine, I probably want to know so I can fix that bug. You have things like printing and extensions and history and bookmarks. I don't know how much people actually use bookmarks, but that's something I need to figure out. We need some kind of like speed dial or new page UI, maybe some panels, but also we want auto update. I want to make sure that you always have the most recent version of Chromium, especially to make sure that it is safe and that any kind of security fixes that are made, that you get it as soon as possible. And so both crash reporting and auto update will require me to have a server. Oh, sorry. Okay, so moving on with crash reporting. Now, the good thing is, like, we made like a custom version of this back in the day at Opera, but today there's something called Sentry. And so the idea here is that we have some kind of server on our side that will do deduplication of crashes, produce stack traces, make issue reporting, that will be reported to by all of the different browsers on the user's machine to be able to find these crashes. And of course, if you're going to make a browser in 2020, then you need a mobile browser. So I haven't even started here, but the plan is to do something like that. And the plan is to use the platform web view on your phone as the web view inside of the browser. And for that, using Qt Web View, which is another widget, but which basically just can wrap the platform web view. On our mobile, we need Android, iOS, and we need a bunch of like things, but I haven't even gotten to this yet. So now we're in August 2020, and yeah, things are maybe looking up. It's hard to tell. It's hard to predict the future right now. So one thing that it's clear is like making a browser is not a one-person job. Just to keep up with Chromium is probably a full-time job for at least one person. But we also see that you can get pretty far with being just one person because of open source, right? And you can also get pretty far with little or no money. Of course, I have like money in my time, right, to spend on this. So the point is, I guess, in the end, is that we need a way to pay for open source software, because I made a browser based on open source software, but I didn't pay anybody. So when I start earning money, we need a way to pay people. And, you can have a GitHub sponsor page. I'll probably I'm like halfway through making GitHub sponsor page for a Turtle browser, but will that be able to pay for things? I don't think so. But the point, I guess, is that with zero budget and one dev and a lot of open source, I made a browser. And it kind of works, which is not too bad for 2020. Okay. Thank you so much for attending my talk.